Kahal Kadosh Boker Or Masechet. Yeah, Masechet Bava Kamma Daf Yutet Amud Aleph. Right? He says over here like this. We are on the two dots. So it says like this: Velo mi shomrei perot. You're not allowed to take from shomrei perot, which are people that they watch over the fruits. You're not allowed to take from them wood or perot. Okay? Rava zavin shabishta marisa. So Rava, he acquired chavile zemorot. Right? So we're talking about different types of twigs and things like that from an aris, from a sharecropper. So Elmaleh Abaye comes and he says, Vahatna, we learned velo mi shomrei perot. Etzim perot. You're not allowed to buy from the shomrei perot, not etzim, and not perot. So Elmaleh, so he comes and he says, Hanamile, when are these words that you cannot take from the shomrei perot, etzim perot? Beshomer, only by a shomer. Delet le begufa dara mide, because a shomer. What did we say? We said velo mi shomrei haperot, from a shomer. What is a shomer? Shomer is a watchman. A watchman does not have anything in the gufa kaka. He has nothing. So therefore, he's just watching over it. So you can't take it from him. Because if you're going to buy something from him, it's probably stolen. Right? Beshomer delele begufa daramide. Avalaris, but a sharecropper, deitle begave, that he does have a chelek, right, in the karka, which means that he comes and he divides in everything. He says what? He's selling his own part. Right? The sharecropper, he has his own parts of the fruits, his own parts of, so therefore obviously I could always say, you know what, he's selling from his own. By the shomer, where he doesn't have it, it's almost a certain that he's stealing. And therefore if you're buying it from him, for sure you're buying something which is stolen. But by here, you're not saying that. Fine. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, shomer perot lochim mehen keshen yoshvin u'mochrin v'asalin lifnehem v'turtani lifnehem. Yeah, so basically you are allowed to purchase from the shomrei perot when they're sitting and they're selling publicly. Right? Obviously meaning that when they're standing, it could be that, they're on the run. No. They're sitting down, they're selling, right? The salin lifnehem, the baskets are in front of them, it's not hidden somewhere, and they're getting you, other merchandise. And also they have the big scales, right? The big weights right in front of them as well. Why? Because if they're doing it such publicly, so therefore, we're not going to come and say that they actually came and they actually stole it. They're doing it in front of everybody. There's nothing there. The kulan shamru, but if everyone, it doesn't matter what, they're going to come, they're going to tell you, hatmen, keep it under the cover, as if to say, asur, you're not allowed to buy it from them. Why? Because then for sure it means that it was stolen. Right? Lochim mehen mipetach hagina, aval lo me'achorei hagina. You're also allowed to buy it, right, only from the entrance of the garden, but not from the back part of the garden. The same thing. Basically, the concept is that any single time that we're going to suspect that there's a monkey business, yeah, that's it. Foul play. Okay? Itmar, it was stated, Gazlan me'emat mutar liknot emenu. Imagine you have a gazlan, which is known to be a gazlan. From when are you permitted to come and to start purchasing it from him? So Rav says, rov mishelo. So you know that there's a bandit. And you're going to say the majority of what he has is actually stolen. So when am I or any other person allowed to come and start buying from him? Right? You want to purchase. So what? You can never buy something from him? So says the Gemara, Rav says, the majority has to be his. Meaning you already know that the guy stole probably his entire house is probably stolen. Right? You remember the story of the woman that we said that how do we start the takanat shavim? Because the woman went and she told her husband, if you're going to start coming and giving back the things that you stole, you would have to give back even your belt. Like you have to give back everything. You understand? So therefore there was such a concept. So the same thing. It has to be that the majority of the property that he has, the majority of things that he has is his. Then you could start buying from him, right? The things back. Shmuel says, afilu miut shelo. You don't have to have the majority, right? It has to be even the minority, right? Why? Because as long as I have the minority, I'm going to say, you know what? It's probably not going to be stolen, which means I could already depend upon that it's probably not stolen, and therefore there's not going to be a problem. Okay? So says the Gemara, Orulei Rav Yehuda le'ada dayala. So, right, Paskin the Rav Yehuda to Ada, that he was a shamash of the Chachamim, kedivrei Omer, like the one that says afilu miut shelo, even if the minority, right, belongs to him. So therefore you're allowed to come and you're allowed to already start, right, and and buying things, right? Which means very, very simple. At the end of the day, all you have to do is you have to just see that he's buying things in a store, right? And therefore he's not stealing it from anybody, and therefore you come and you say, okay, so look, he's got his house. In his house he's got beds, he's got a table, he's got chairs, he's got this. And all of a sudden you come and you see that he's going to a store and he's buying from this store this, and then he goes to another store, he's buying. So you come and you start seeing, okay, so he's actually starting to buy things, and it's not that it's all stolen. So the machloka between Rav and Shmuel was, do we need the majority, or do we need only the minority? And that's how we're paskening, only the minority. Mamon masor. Yeah, when you have money of a moser. Okay, remember, a moser is somebody that gives the property, right, over to the goyim. So Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda, Chad Amar, one of them says, Mutar labedo beyad. You're allowed to destroy it with your hands.
What does it mean he gives the property to the goyim?
He gives over the property to the goyim. He's a moser. He's showing the goyim in order that they should take the properties, right? Meaning he's a malshin. You know what a malshin is? An informer. So he comes and he tells them, you want to steal, right? You want to steal this, take it. You want to do that, take whatever it is.
You can also malshin by
100%. Also metaltali. Same thing. Again, a moser is on anything. He's giving over the properties. It could be to an anas. You remember we spoke about an anas. An anas was somebody that comes and he wants to steal, and the first thing that you do is you show your friend's property, or you show your friends the things. That's the same thing.
And this guy is a Yehudi.
Which one?
He's Jew.
Obviously he's a Jew. Yeah? So we're talking about a moser is a Jew. So machloke between Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda, right? Mutar labdo biyad, and one of them says sur labdo biyad, which means can you come and you destroy it with your hands, right? Or not? Which means according to everybody, you could get rid of his money through grama, right? Or even through garmi, right? Which is worse than a grama. But the question is, can you take it with your hands and destroy his property, right? Because he's a moser. So man de'amar mutar labdo biyado. The man de'amar that says that it's going to be mutar to come and, right, to destroy it. Lo yehe mamono chamur migufo. The mamon is not going to be any worse than the guf, right? Just like it's mutar labed gufo biyadayim, right? Because we already know that the ones which are moser moridim velo ma'alim, which means we put them down into a pit and we don't bring them up. Yeah. So therefore, if right now the body is done that, so therefore, it can't be that the money is worse than the guf. Uman de'amar, but according to man de'amar asur labedo. Dilma havale zar'a me'alia, maybe he's going to have good children. So therefore, right, maybe be'emet, he's going to have zera kasher. But it says in the pasuk, Yachin rasha v'tzadik ilbash. What does that mean? Right? It means that you see from here that there's such a concept, right, of that a rasha will prepare, but that the tzaddik will come and he'll have it. Which means that sometimes you have a rasha, that really be'emet, who's going to have the mamon? It's going to become to a tzaddik. Right? And why? Because, the father was a rasha, right? But all of a sudden the child was a tzaddik. Okay? Fine. So it's a machloket. Machloket whether it's mutar labdo biyad or it's going to be asur. Okay? Rav Chasta.
If that's the reason why... Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So Rav Chasta comes now and he says like this. Rav Chasta havale ha'u arisa. So Rav Chasta had a sharecropper. Which means he used to come, take perot and give it to Rav Chasta is chelek, take perot and take it for himself. Salke, so Rav Chasta came and he took him out of his position. Yeah? Here it says, he was always meod medaktek b'chalukah, was not mevater mishelo klum. That's what he's, the first explanation. Another explanation he says is that he used to take half of them, right, which was different to other ones which used to take shalish, which means if you remember the sharecroppers, there were different how do you call them? There's different like tariffs, right? Some of them used to take shalish, some of them used to take ravia, and this one was taking a good portion. He was taking chetzi. Yeah? Shalish or ravia lo shamanu, lo chetzi. Right? So this guy was coming, he was taking half the property. So imagine, there's 100 fruits, he's taking 50. So he says, right, Kada nafshe. So Rav Chasta went and he called on himself the pasuk v'tzafun latzadik chel choteh. It's shamur latzadik, the money of a choteh. Why? Because the chelek of the haris, which was the choteh, came to the Rav Chasta, which was the tzaddik. Okay? So now the Gemara says like this. Ki matikvat hanaf kivtza. We're going to now come and start making drashot on different psukim. So the pasuk says, what to'elet, right, is there to a gazlan when he steals? Matikvat hanef kivtza. What is the tikva? What is the, what is he going to gain when he's going to come and he's going to steal? Remember the pasuk, Ki botzea berech nietz Hashem, was talking about stealing. When you're going to steal or you're going to do an avirah, you cannot come and actually make a bracha to Hashem. So therefore this is the same concept. Ki matikvat hanef kivtza, ki yeshel eloah nafsho. Hashem is going to come and throw his neshama, and he's going to get rid of it. Rav Huna v'Rav Chasta, echad amar nafsho denigzal, v'echad amar nafsho gazlan. Shel gazlan. What does that mean? Basically, what's happening is, what is the kavanah of the pasuk? One of them is saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take the nefesh of the nigzal, and one of them is explaining that he's going to talk about the one of the gazlan. What are we talking about? So he comes and he says like this. He says, "Man de'amar nafsho shel nigzal." When it says the nefesh of the one that's getting stolen from, tichtiv, the pasuk says, "Ken orchot kol botze'a batza." That is the derech of anybody that's gozel gezela. Et nefesh be'alav yikach Hashem imenu. What does that mean? Here it's a raya that Hashem is taking the nefesh, right, of the gazlan is nafsho shel nigzal, right? Because that's what he's doing. He's taking his neshama. He's taking him. Okay, which we're going to see later on. What does that mean exactly? Okay, man de'amar lenafsho. According to the manamar that says nafsho shel gazlan, he says because it's written, right? Al tigzal dal ki dalhu. Do not steal from a poor person because he's poor. The al tedaber, right? The al tedakeh, sorry, ani bashar, and don't stop an anini, right, in the gates that he's taking the leket shichau peah. Ki Hashem yariv rivam vekava et kovehem nefesh. Because Hashem is going to judge their judgment, and he's going to steal, right? Nefesh goes lehem. So from here is the raya that Hashem is taking the nefesh of the gazlan, right? Not of the nigzal, but rather the gazlan. So he says, "V'yidach nami aktiv nefesh be'alav yikach." He says, one second, but the other one, it is written in the pasuk, nefesh be'alav yikach, that when he steals, he's taking the nefesh be'alav. So now if it's taking from the nefesh be'alav, it means that he's taking from the, right, the nigzal. So it says the Gemara, my be'alav, what does it mean be'alav? Be'alav dehashta. Right? It means the be'alim right now, right? Which is basically the gazlan. Because now it doesn't mean the owners, previous owners. The new owners. Who's the new owner? The gazlan. So that's what that's. Ve'idach nami, but the other one he's saying, one second. He says, Haktiv v'kava et kovehem nafesh. What does that mean? He says, Matam kamer. It's bringing you a reason. Matam, what's the reasoning? V'kava et kovehem. Why is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to steal? Gozlem shalaniim. Mishum de kabaya nefesh, because they want to take away the nefesh of the nigzal. Meaning the fact that they want to take from the nigzal, so Hashem takes the midah kering midah, he takes the gazlan. Okay? Another drasha, right? What does that mean now when it says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, kol hagozel et chavero shaveh pruta, ki'ilu notel nishmato mimenu. If somebody's going to steal from somebody else, a shaveh pruta, it's ki'ilu he took his neshama. Yeah? Imagine what that means. Right? Here he says the reason is because sometimes he won't have anything, and then at the end it's going to become, right, very, very problematic. Okay? So that is the concept, right, that we just mentioned until now.
We also say when it's an ani is like that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah? So he comes and he says, right, is it says, Shenemar b'says in Pasuk, Ken orcho kol b'tzea b'tzad nefesh ve'alav yikach, ve'omer ve'achal ketzilecha ve'lachmecha yochlu b'necha u'vnotecha. Right, so we're talking about the oyev, the enemy is going to steal the money, so it's going to be ki'ilu that he took, whether it's going to be banecha, v'notecha, because he doesn't have the parnasah. Ve'omer, and it says in the pasuk also, we're talking about mechamas b'nei Yehuda, asher shafchu dam naki be'artzam. Wow, okay. We're talking about the Hamas, what that they did to b'nei Yehuda, that ki'ilu they were shofech dam naki be'artzam. Yeah, ve'omer, and it says in a pasuk, El Shaul ve'el bet adamim al asher hemit et hagivonim. For Shaul and bet adamim, because they killed the givonim, right? So what is that referring to? The Gemara is going to explain exactly how did he kill the givonim exactly. We're going to have to explain. Okay, so says the Gemara, my ve'omer, what does it mean ve'omer? V'chitema, maybe you're going to say nefesh didei. We're talking about the nefesh of the nigzal. Aval nefesh banav u'vnotav, but the nefesh of banav u'vnotav lo. Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. Besar banav u'notav. right? It's going to be Basar B'Navlutav. So it's Mamash. He's taking the flesh of also Basar B'Navlutav. But what is that? Maybe Hechal if he doesn't pay. But what else is he paying? You know what it's called a Hamsan. Yeah, he's coming and he's stealing from you, but he's giving you money. Yeah, meaning he's taking to you by force, basically, right? But why? He's paying. So it's tzaddik, he's paying, but he's taking you by force. Yeah, which means that he's paying you. How much is your glasses?
Yes.
It's not for sale.
For you, 600.
No, you
yeah,
say,
but
no,
you tell me it's not for
supposed
sale.
to say it's not for sale, exactly.
Yeah, I say okay, but you know what? I'm giving you 300. Here, take. I don't give you a choice. I'm taking whether you like it or not. That's called I'm buying it against your will.
Yeah.
Okay?
Many do that.
So he comes and he says, "Aval heicha di'ev dameh." Lo, it doesn't work. So Tashema mechamas ben Yehuda sheshefchu dam naki be'artzam. V'chi teimara. If you're going to tell me now, hanemile heicha de ka'avid biyadayim, aval grama lo, but maybe grama no. Tashema el Shaul ve'el bet adamim asher imit et givonim. V'chi heicha matzinu sharag Shaul. Where do we ever see that Shaul came and he killed the givonim? V'chi heicha matzinu sharag Shaul et givonim. אלא מתוך שהרג נוב עיר הכהנים שהיו מספיקים להם מים ומזון מעלה עליו הכתוב כאילו הרגן. He says like this. He says Yoshua, he made a gezerah on the givonim. They were the chotvei etzim and shoavei mayim for the Mishkan. The givonim, they were serving a nov, right? The kohanim of the city used to come and give them parnasah. So once he came and he killed the kohanim in nov, so now that's it. Now they don't have a parnasah anymore. Because if they were always giving parnasah to the city of Nov, and Kam Shaul HaMelech and he kills all the city of Nov, so now that's their entire source, life source. So therefore, that's why it was Ki'ilu that Shaul killed the Givonim. Not only did he kill Nov, he killed the Givonim because he took away their life source. Okay? By the way, everything that we are talking about now, about the entire concept of the nefesh of the Nigzal, or the nefesh of the Gozel and everything, right? This is where they basically base upon the entire concept that somebody will have to come back in a gilgul in order to get the money back. Because there's a machloket here in the Gemara, who comes back? Who's he stealing? Right? Does he have to come back? Because that's what we just said. You say, who's coming back exactly? So the concept though is that when he comes and he says, which one? Yeah, so you're coming and saying, is who's the one that's coming back? And that's the pshat when it says the kava et kovehem nafesh, right? Which means that which one is it taking it from? Okay, so again, it all depends on what we just mentioned over here, the machloket. Whether it's they might have to both come back in order that the one that stole will have to come and give back the one that steals, right? This is actually very, very appropriate to Aliyat. I don't remember if it was the Shnaim Yomi of today or tomorrow. In Aliyat, I think it's Revi'i or Shlishi, Moshe Rabbeinu comes and he tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want Hodieni na'e derachecha, show me your path, show me your ways. So there's actually an incredible Moshav Zekenim. Moshav Zekenim is mevusas on Baalei HaTosfot, just like that Zekenim Baalei HaTosfot, but they found the different pshatim. And there, what happened is that a few parashiot ago it said that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu went and he told Moshe Rabbeinu to go up to the mountain, he went up to the mountain, and what happened was all of a sudden he comes and he sees that a Jew comes up to drink water. So he comes up and he leaves a money pouch there and he forgot his wallet there. And he goes down. Yeah, so he comes up, he drinks, he goes down. Now what happens is after 3-4 minutes, somebody else comes up, right? He drinks, he sees the money pouch, he takes it, and he leaves. Yeah, okay, fine. Another 3-4 minutes later, comes up another guy. He comes and he starts drinking. The original first guy comes up, and he tells him, where's my money pouch? He says, money pouch? What are you talking about? No. They come, they start fighting, he kills him. So Moshe Rabbeinu comes and he tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hodeni na'e derachecha. What's going on? The first guy comes up, he lost his money pouch. Yeah? The second guy comes, he finds it, and he leaves. Right? The third guy comes, and he's scared, didn't do a thing. He comes up, drinks, and all of a sudden what happens? The original guy comes up, he starts accusing him falsely, and he kills him. Yeah? Explain to me what's going on. Yeah? Not even a gilgul. he went and he's telling this. He says, listen, the first guy, right? What happened is that he came and he stole from the second guy, and he stole the money pouch. So what happened is that he stole a money pouch. He goes up to drink. He forgot it there. The second guy comes and he found his own money pouch. So he took his money pouch and he left. Then you had the third guy that came up. The third guy that came up killed the first guy's father. So therefore, since he killed the father, now it's only by the Guel Adam that he's going to come and he's going to kill him. That's Odieni Na Derechecha, just to understand how we won't understand that. Because when you're looking on the side, you're like, hey, what's going on over here? But if you don't see the entire picture and zoom out, you'll never see it. But again, the same thing. Kovea et kovem nafesh. Okay? Says the two dots. Aval lochim min arshim. You're allowed to come and you're allowed to take women. Whether we're talking from the women, you're allowed to take the klitzemer b'yudam klepisham b'galil. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, lochim min arshim, you're allowed to purchase from women, whether it's going to be klitzemer b'yudah, klepisham b'galil. Aval lo yenot ushmanim uslatot, but you're not allowed to take whether it's going to be yain, shemen, or slatot, so oil. What?
Why you take from
You're purchasing, buying. Yeah? You're buying. Right? Yain, ushmanim, uslatot. Lochin min hanashim. You're not taking lochin, sell it. Right? That's the how do you call this? The solid. Yeah? Okay? So he comes and he says, you're allowed to purchase these things. Okay? Now he comes and he says this. So you cannot take not only just the oil and the wine and the flour and all that, but also you're not allowed to purchase anything from avadim and tinukot. So from the women, he comes and he says you're allowed to take kli pishtan and kli tzemen, depends where, right? But not yain, shemen and solid, because then really be'emet the husband is the one that sells it, and it's not normal for the woman to do it. So maybe she stole it from the husband and she's selling it, right? And you're not allowed to take from the avadim and tinukot. Abba Shaul says mocheret isha ב45 dinar kedei la'asot kippah l'rosha, right? Which means a woman could come and sell, right, with the value of 4 and 5 dinar in order to make a kippah for Rosha.
Meaning, is it cheap or expensive?
Right? So therefore, he comes and he says, so she's allowed to come in. So this is worth 4 or 5 dinar, right? He comes, why? Because the husband is not makpid. So therefore, since he's not makpid, right? So therefore, there's no problem. Okay? Okay. Now he comes and he says, V'kulan shamru, right? And all of these things that we just said, he says, latmin is going to be asur. So one more time. Everything that is normal for the husband to sell, she's not allowed to sell. You're never allowed to buy from the avadim and tinukot because it's probably stolen, whether it's from the parents or it's going to be from the masters. Now, when a woman is allowed to come and she's allowed to sell something which is cheap in order to make a tzaif, since at the end of the day it's so cheap, you know, for a few dollars, and that's why even for tzedakah, by the way, it's the same thing, right? We're not going to suspect that she's, because there's no makpid on it. You know, a husband will never come and be makpid on $3, $4, $5. You know, it doesn't work like that. Okay? Now he comes and he says, but if they tell them to hide it, so it's always going to be a soul. Again, the kabei tzedakah are allowed to take something little, but not something a lot. The ones which are baalei bet abad, so they work in the presses, whether the oil and all these things, they are allowed to take, right, from, okay, we're going to see the next hara. Why? Okay, they're allowed to take zetim b'midah v'shem b'midah, which means like mechira, as if they're selling it in quantities. Why? Because she cannot come and sell such a great amount and sell it, right, privately, right, without the husband should find out. So because of that, we're not going to suspect that she stole it. Okay, that means basically, if it's such big quantities, this is what we spoke about also with the herds. You remember we said that he could come and sell 4 or 5 in the herd. So he said, is it 4 and 5, 4 or 5, 4 from a big one, from a small one? So why, if it's something so big, it's impossible that they won't find out about it. So therefore, we're not going to suspect that it was stolen. Okay? One second. Aval lo zetim b'mu'at velo b'shemen b'mu'at, but not olives, right, or oil, right? If it's going to be a small amount, right? Because again, they could steal it. Rashbag says, lochim minashim zetim, you're allowed to take small amounts. Bagalil ha'elyon, shepe'amim adam bosh limkol al petach beto v'noten li'ishto mocheret. But sometimes he's embarrassed to sell it, so he gives it to his wife. So since he gives it to his wife, so therefore obviously it would become permitted. And the last story before the Mishnah, Ravina comes and he visited Be'mechuzah. So they came the women of Bnei Mechuza, Ramu Kameh Kavle Veshire. They put in front of him Shashirot and Smidim Mizahav. And he accepted it. So here they gave him gold. They give him a mash. Like, think about it. We're talking about different necklaces and bracelets, and he accepted it. Elmaleh Rabba Tosfal Ravina he says, "Vatanya Gabet Tzedakah Mekablim Den Davar Muad, Lo Davar Merubeh." He says, Elmaleh, he says, Hani Livnei Mechuza Davar Muad. For them, they were so rich, so therefore it's not considered. That's Davar Muad. So therefore you're allowed to come and you're allowed to take. So says the Mishnah on Kuf Yutet Amud Aleph towards the bottom. Mochin Shakoves Motzi Hare Elu Shelo. So when we have the concept of mochin, what is mochin? We're talking about pieces of wool. Shakoves Motzi, that he comes and he takes it out right from the clothing. Hare Elu Shelo, they belong to him. So imagine you're the, how do you call it? You're the one that's you're the tintoria, laundry. Thank you. Right? You have a nikuya vesh, right? So you have the laundromat, and then what happens is when you come and you wash these clothing and things come out, they belong to you. Why? Because since it's davar muat, balabait is not makpid. Shasorek, right? Vasorek, or v'shea sorek mutzi, right? When we're talking about that, you're going to come, you're going to comb the clothing, and you take out all these kotzim and all these things. Harelu shelabai balabait, they belong to the balabait. Why? Because since it's a lot, the balabait is not mochel on them. Which means if it's going to be something so minute, so he's not makpid, but if it's a lot, he's makpid. The koves notel shlosha chutin, vehen shelo. So the koves is going to take 3 chutin from the beged, and it belongs to him. Yeter mikan, right, miken, if he's got more than that, harelu shel balabait, it belongs to the balabait. Ima yashachor al gabe alavan notel el tekol, if it's going to be black on white, so then he's allowed to take the entire thing, even if it's going to be more than 3. Vehen shelo, and it belongs to him. Why? Because basically the black one is being mikalkel the white one, and therefore that's why they're not makpid, that you're going to take away, right, these strings. Okay. Hachayat sheshieret achut. Right. What happens right now if the chayat comes and he left the chut, right, and he gave it to the balabait, kedei litforbo. So it says a shiur of kedei litforbo, or a matlit shi shalosh al shalosh, which is going to be 3 by 3, right, 3 fingers by 3 fingers, right. That's shalosh al shalosh. Huh? There's shalosh etzbaot and shalosh etzbaot. So then it's golden. So he says arelu shel balabait. So this belongs to the balabait. Right? Why does it belong to a balabait? Because, right, at the end of the day, once it's so big, so therefore it belongs to the balabait. Masheacharash motzi b'ma'atzad, when you have okay, this is talking about now pieces of wood that the carpenter is taking out from the garzen when he's taking away the wood. Harelu shelo, they belong to him. Again, as a balabait is not makpid. Uvakashil, but if it's going to be the ones which is when it's taking out from the kardom, it belongs to the balabait because they're thicker. Basically, again, one more time, the concept is very, very simple. Nowadays, obviously, we'd have to translate this to different things. But for example, you come and you go to a carpenter, you give him a big piece of wood, and the carpenter came and he started cutting the wood. So the little tiny pieces, you're never going to come and tell the carpenter, listen, I want you to give me the little tiny, the little. But if you gave him a big beam and he cut it, and there's a big piece, you're going to want that back. So the exact same thing. It's the exact same concept. Again, we were just talking about the little nitty-bitties of every single case, but that's what it is. Now, if you were doing it as a schir yom, everything belongs to the balabait. Because again, if you're his worker, and now you're cutting, so even the crumbs, or I don't know what to call it exactly, the dust and all these things, they go back to the balabait. Okay? Fine. Gemara. We learned in the Braita, you're allowed to purchase tzemer from the koves, from the launderer. They belong to him. HaKoves notel shne chutim elyonim v'hen shelo. So the koves is allowed to take the first 2 chutim, right, and they belong to him, right? Velo yitol, says Kuf Yutet Amud Bet 119b. Velo yatil bo yoter mishlosha chubim. But when you're going to be tofer, right, you're not allowed to come and to separate, to stretch it more than 3 tfilot. You're not allowed to come and to comb it to the sheti. Sorry, to the right, you've got sheti and erev. So you've got to the length, to the width. So here we're talking about that you're only allowed to do it the other way around. Why? Okay, so here I'm just going to read to you quickly, or if you want to read it in English, David, right? The footnote where it explains the entire concept. Yeah, you have it over there?
Yeah.
To explain the difference between the sheti and the erev, because if not, you're not going to understand. So, until you find it, umashveu, huh? Kuv yutet amubet. Umashveu, right? Umashveu leurbo, right? So he says over here, right? Leurko avalo leruchbo. So he comes and he says like this.
Also, give me pictures.
Yes. He comes and he explains like this. Woven cloth consists of two sets of parallel threads that crisscrosses each other at the right angles. Every second horizontal thread passes over the first vertical thread, under the second one, over the third one, under the fourth, right? And then each remaining horizontal thread passes under the first vertical thread, over the second, and under the third. That's the diagram. So, okay, so this is this picture. If everybody sees, I don't know if you can see that picture. Okay, everyone sees? That's the picture. So now he says like this. He says, in the weaving process, the vertical threads are called sheti, the warp, are fixed in the place. Well, that's what he's saying. He's going to the warp. So he says, erev is right to left. Right? Are fixed in the place where the single thread, which is called erev, weft, is passed over and under them, first from left to right, and then right to left. Okay? The way to remember is ma'arav. Yeah? Ma'arav is west. So left to right, right to left. Okay? With each pass, right, of the weft thread, a new line of cloth is created. Okay? So he says different kinds of threads were used for the warp of the weft. The vertical warp threads were thinner, but also more tightly twisted, and therefore stronger. Oh. You're going up and down, up and down, up and down. No, but you're going up. You have a whole bunch. So, like this. Yes. Yes. So now he comes and he says like this. The character of the woven cloth changes. Look, event. Now, he's coming. So what's he saying here? He's saying here, you're not going to sew more than 3 stitches for each loop that he attaches to the garment. Velo yisrok abegel shidyo, and do not tease the garment along the vertically, but rather horizontally. Okay, umashvehu leorko, and then he evens the garments out along with its length, but not along its width. Okay, v'imbala shvoto tefach rashai, but if he plans to even it out, so even if he's going to cut it out by a tefach, he's still allowed to do so. He may do so and keep the strips for himself. So again, basically what we're talking about is, this is, again, you have to actually read all the footnotes to understand the entire weaving process. But again, we're talking about the exact same concept, that if it's going to be a small amount and you're stretching it out, so he's allowed to cut it even until tefach, and it belongs to him. Okay? So Amar Mor says, Shne chutin vanan tran shalosh. Say, what are you talking about? You just said that he's allowed to take 2 chutim, correct? One more time, the bottom of the Gemara said, right? We learned it was 3. So answers the Gemara like it's not a question. The Braita, which says you're only allowed to take 2 chutim, we're talking about thick chutim. Okay? And therefore the Balabait is makpid, much more. So since the thread is thicker, so he's more makpid. But if it's going to be skinny ones, so then it's until 3. Okay, then we say you're not allowed to come and comb it, right, to one direction but the other direction. We learned the opposite. It says a question. He says one of them is a glima, which is a clothing which is done every single day. So since it's going to be used every single day, you always have to do it, right? It's going to make it easier to tear. But the Braita is talking about besarbela, which is basically, it's made for like beauty. So therefore, when you're going to do it for the sheti, it looks nicer. Meaning it all depends on the clothing. Are you trying to make it look nicer? Or are you trying to make it easier, meaning more practical, you don't want it to break, right? But basically more of the concept that it's easier, right? That it was, again, if you're going to come, you're going to do that, so obviously it doesn't, it's going to become a problem. Okay, next the Gemara says, so by Rav Yomi comes and he asks, are we talking about that we're going from the machat and you're bringing, that's considered 1? Or maybe it's talking about holacha ve'hava'ah, that's considered twice. Meaning when I'm going like this and then I'm coming back, is that considered 1 or is it considered 2? So answers the Gemara, teiku. Yeah? We don't know. מה?
מה אחת פה ומה האחרות פה? המתוי והתוי.
No, והולכת והבאת המחת.
המתוי והתוי.
Right? That's the halach hazor. Is halach hazor considered one or is halach hazor considered two? Take. We don't know. ומשווהו לאורכו, אבל לא לרוחבו.
מה זה משנה בכלל? מה ההשלכה של זה?
Because again, we just said that you're not supposed to do more than 3 tefilot. So 3 tefilot means 6, or is it 3? Well, depends how you consider. Yes. ומשווהו לאורכו, אבל לא לרוחבו. So he said you're allowed to make it לאורך ולא לרוחב. Ask the Gemara v'Tanya ibcha. We learned the opposite. Again, the exact same answer. Lakashia beglima veha behemyoni. Here we're talking about the glima. The glima, when you come and you put it on, so the orech is nikar, and therefore you have to make it equal. But he says the hemyoni, which is like a belt, right? When you put it on, you don't see the orech, but rather because both of them are hanging, so you don't actually see the length. So because of that, that's why you have to make it like to the rochav, not to the orech. To the length, you do it to the width. Okay. Tanu Rabbanam, we learned in the Braita. En lochim min sorek mochin, ideh she'eno shelo. You're not allowed to take from the sorek, the one that's combing wool, because it doesn't belong to him. But bimkom shenagush lo, what happens if there's a minhag that it belongs to him? Meaning whatever he takes out of the clothing belongs to him. So lochin, they're allowed to take it. Aviluchol mekom, and in any place, lochin mehem kar maleh mochin v'kesed maleh mochin. They're allowed to take from them an entire pillow or whatever it is, whether it's full of mochin or keset or blankets also, which are going to be full of mochin. My tama was reasoning kenanau b'shinui, because he acquired it with shinui, which means that the second that he came and he made a shinui, because even if it is that he did steal it, he already acquired it b'shinui, so therefore there's no problem. Tanu Rabbanan, we also learned in a Braita, en lochim migardi, you're not allowed to take from a weaver. Lo irin velo nirin velo punkalin velo shure pekiot. So let me translate here, because if not we're lost. So he says you're not allowed to take from the weaver woolen stoppers. It's a wad of wool that is stuck into a certain part of a weaving tool called a shuttle, bukhyar.
Masechet. המקלות של המסרגת, לא?
I don't know if it's a maklot, it's a...
Okay, וזה נשאר שם.
No, but this is not the maklot. The maklot is a rod. This is the ida. So the ida is the stopper. It stops the... It's like, you know, sometimes you have... you know, not a bolt. It went... You know, you put a nail, but you put something around. How do you call that?
Shaiba.
In English. A bolt?
No, okay, bolt and nuts and bolts.
Nuts and bolts. So bolts. So bolt. A bolt. That's what it is. It's basically like a bolt. Very similar. You have, here you have a picture. You have it here. Look at the picture. Right? No. Here it is. On the bottom of there. So that stopper, right here, that's a little tiny stopper. Okay? That's a little... Yeah. No, that stops it. So that's called... של המכונה הזאת. Yes. Ida. So Ida is a little stopper ליד הקנה. You see it over there?
Yes, it's a bolt.
It's a bolt. Yeah, so it's like a bolt. Something very similar. Stopper, that's what it's called. ולא נידים, nor heddles.
מה זה הרל? זה בעברית, הרב. מה זה הרל?
זה לא מתרגם בעברית. לא עירים ולא נידים. לא מתרגם שום דבר. מה אתה רוצה שאני אגיד לך?
אז יש לך את הזה והזה?
בעברית זה עירה.
מה זה עירה?
העירה זה העירה זה עירים. זה הסטופר, זה הבולט. עכשיו אנחנו בנידים.
לא, הוא שאל מה זה עירה.
No, נידים. The next one, I told you in English it was heddles. I have no idea what that is here. So I don't know.
הרל.
על מה אתה מדבר אבל? מה?
These strung threads are called heddles. They're the little, I think it's those threads over there that you have it. Those are called heddles. Velo punkalim.
טוב, בסדר, נו. מה נעשה?
פונקלין הם סלילים של חוטי ערב שמשתמשים מהם בהריגת מרבדים. אוקיי.
יש סליל של ערב, יש...
כל הכבוד מרדכי.
סליל של אשתי.
כן.
אוקיי.
זה ברור, אשתי בערב, אתה עושה אותה בצלם.
הסליל של הערב, נו. אתה יכול לפרגן.
מה זה הפונקלין?
ולא שיעורי פקיות. and not שיעורי סלילים של החוטים. אוקיי. But lochim mehem beged minumar. But you could take a beged minumar, or also chute erev v'sheti tavu yarig. Okay, so Amri. So they said hashta tavu shakli arug mibai. If you just say that they could take it when it's already going to be tavui, which is going to be already woven, so arug you're going to obviously. So he comes and he says mayarig tike. We're talking about sharsheret aruga from tzemer, which is not tavui. Yeah, you have to become a weaver to understand. Fine. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. En lochim min hatzaba. You're not allowed to take from the one that he puts colors, right? Lo otot, right? So you're not allowed to take anything which is basically to check, right? This is basically a chatichat tzemer that he went and he cut in order to check, right? Whether it actually gets. So it's like a
sample.
Well, the sample is the next one. Lo dugmot.
So what is this?
The dugumot is the samples. 19. How do you translate the first one?
Color samples.
What?
נו, זה סמפלס, מה?
Both of them are
סמפל?
samples?
אותות ודוגמאות סמפל?
מה?
אותות ודוגמאות
כן,
סמפל?
זה חתיכות צמר.
No. Otot is used for testing.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's used for testing. So the first one was used for testing. So when people bring wool to a dyer for dyeing, the dyer cuts off a bit of the wool. Okay, that's what.
One is for
like
the
this.
color, one is
Yeah,
for
I'm going to bring something to the guy to dye it.
And it's
When I bring it, he comes and he takes off. Right? He comes and he takes off a little tiny piece.
to
Right?
see if it's straight or not.
כן, לא.
Right? He comes and he
מה היה לו
says.
בהפוכה?
Yeah, he comes and he says.
זה הרב מתוחכם.
טוב שלא לחץ פה.
He comes and he says like this. Yeah,
כמו
גמרתם.
בזה, ככה עושה לנו, ככה, בזה למטה.
He comes and he says like this. Yeah, I'm throwing away my avirot.
על מי?
So he comes and he says, right like this. He says, when you come and you bring it, so what he does is he's getting in front of you. He'll cut off a little tiny piece, and then what he's going to do is he's going to check it on that little tiny piece. That's called the otot. It's a tester. The dugma is when he comes and he brings you here. Take this dugma. So you cannot buy from him, right? You cannot come and buy whether the otot or the dugmot. Velot rushim shel tzemer. We're talking about small pieces of wool. Okay. Why? Because obviously it could be that maybe he cut it off and the balabai didn't know and he's stealing.
But we said if it's too small, it's matter. The balabai don't make.
No, but obviously it's big enough. Avalochim mehen beged tzavua, but you are allowed to purchase from him beged tzavua, v'tavu begadim, right? Which was made from the dugmaot of the tzemer. Hashta tavui shakil begadim by. So one second, if you could already take tavui, so kavachomer you could take an entire beged. So answer the Gemara, what is the begadim? Namte. It's a beged of leved. How do you translate leved in English? It's like the wool which is not
felt, it says felt.
Felt. Okay, so felt. So basically it's unspin fibers. They don't actually spin them.
Huh?
You don't what?
They don't spin the fibers. So it says they're not made from spun threads, but rather by pressing raw wool until the fibers are compacted together into a firm cloth.
מה זה פלט בעברית?
לא יודע. לבד.
לבד?
לבד.
לבד, כן, יש לבד.
Okay. Next, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Noten orot le'abdan. If you're going to give skins to press them, hakitsu'in. So we're talking about the ones which are around, right? The which you're cutting off. That tushin arelu shel balabai. They belong to the balabai. Ve'oleh u'meshatef b'mayim. But if it comes out from the water when you're coming and you're doing this, so that belongs to him, to the one that's doing the pressing. Fine. Next, imaya shachor al gabe lavan. You remember we said that if you have black strings inside of the white, you're allowed to take away the black, because it obviously diminishes from the appearance of the white, so therefore he's not going to be makbid if you're going to take it away. So he says, Amar Rav Yehuda says, Katzra Shemeh, right? The kobes is called Katzra. The Katzra Shakile. So therefore, Mashme Katzer, he takes for himself. So that's his name, and that's what he takes for himself. Okay? That means he's basically just telling you what his name is in Aramaic, that he's allowed to take for himself. Amar Rav Yehuda, Hakol Oli Liminyan Tchelet. Which means the three chutim are going to be mitztaref to that which you have to separate from the tzitzit, from the end of the clothing. The Yitzchak biri kapid alayu. And he was makpid and he used to take it off before, right, the chute tzitzit in the clothing. Basically, he had a doubt, or these consider that you're going to take it away from the beged, and therefore, you should take it away, or no. So basically, like before, meaning like this, you have the corner of the garment, and now you're going to put the tzitzit. Should you first take away the extra, and then you put on the tzitzit, or it doesn't matter? That's the question. Okay, so he says everything is oleh liminyan techelet. That means you could come and you could put it on the tzat beged and there's no problem. But the Yitzchak, his son, was makpid to take it off and then put it on the tzitziot. Hachayat sheshier et achut min achut. Kama litfor. How much is a shiur kedei litfor bo in order to come to start sewing? Amravasi kimlo machat chutz machat. He says it's like the length of the needle, right, and also except for the needle, right, the double, yes, chutz machat. So he comes and he says, so we're going to ask the following question. Yeah, kimlo machat v'chutz machat kimlo machat, or dilma kimlo machat v'chutz machat mashu nosaf. Do we say that you need now like an extra shiur machat, and it's an extra one? Or are we saying maybe it's kimlo machat, and when it says chutz machat, does not mean a full needle extra, it's just an extra tipa. So Tashema, we're going to try to come and we're going to try to bring a proof to Tanya. Hachayat sheshir et achut b'achol migdei litfor bo. Right, v'matli shi pechutah mishalosh al shalosh. Bizman shebalabait makpid alehem. If they're going to be makpid, it belongs to the balabait. If the balabait is not going to be makpid, it belongs to him. If you're going to tell me now melo machat v'chutz machat kim lo machat, if you're going to tell me now the melo machat and chutz machat means the full needle, so pachom mikan chazi lesikta, and if it's going to be less than this, so it's going to be fitting for, right, for what? For making the lulaot on the edges, right? You're making these like circles right on the edges of the bigadim. Beyamarta. Melo machat and chutz machat is even a mashu. What's it fitting for? Ela shmamina, it has to be the full machat. Shmamina, that's what we actually bring a proof. That means it has to be fitting for something. So therefore you need the full needle plus the extra needle. Masha acharash. So he comes and he says this. So whatever he's going to take it out, it's going to be his. Or meaning we have a contradiction. Masha acharash motzi b'matzav v'nifsak b'megera. Harelu shel balabait, it belongs to the balabait. V'yotze mitachat hamigdach u'mitachat rehini v'nigra b'megera, el shelo belongs to him. So therefore, what's going on? Whatever he takes out from the matzad is sheikh to the balabait. Not like we just said that it belongs to him. So Rabbi comes and says, "Be'atra detana didan." In the place of our Mishnah, ikatarte chatzine. There's two types of garzanim. Right? That means there's two types of axes. The rabati karile kashil. The big one is called a kashil, and the small one is called a matzad. So be'atra detana bara, but the other place of the braita, there's only one, right? And it's called a matzad. So therefore, because of that, when they come out, since they're thick, obviously it does not belong to the it belongs to the balabait and not to the balamatzad. Okay, because basically again, if it's going to be too thick, it belongs to the balabait, because he's going to be makpid. Okay, last part. If he was actually working for the balabait, so everything belongs to the balabait, even the nisarim and the like whatever it is, the wood and the how do you call the powder, everything. So Tana Rabbanan we learned on the right time. He said avanim, people that they come and they start cutting the bricks. And by mishum gezel, there's no gezel, which means they're allowed to be mizakeh to themselves the smaller pieces of bricks. Mefasgei lanot, mefasgei gefanim, menakfeh hige. Whether we're talking about the ones that they're cutting down branches, or they're cutting down the gefanim, we're talking about like the small twigs, right? Or also the sicheh kotzim, right? Menakre zeraim, or also the ones that are taking the yirakot. The odrei yirakot, bizman shabalamai makpid alemezon is going to be makpid. There's a problem with gezel. If it's not going to be makpid, there's not going to be a problem of gezel. And then again, we're going to speak about the last two halachot.